Welcome all to the new podcast, Progressing Recruiters Life Everywhere, brought to you by Amoria Bond. In each episode, as the persons who follow us or more, we will looking at exploring what life is like for those who work in recruitment. From the first weeks of training to the life-changing success stories that can be achieved in this one, all from the people who work in this industry every day, every minute. Within recruitment, there are no limits, as we probably know, to how far you can progress. And we want to show you how and why choosing to work in recruitment could be the best decision in your life and maybe even your career as well. My name is Jorn Klaver. I'm the director of the European division from the Amoria Bond Group, and I'm based in Cologne. In this episode, I'm talking to my colleague, friend, and our associate director based in our Amsterdam office, Andy Barrow. And today he will be telling us more about successfully climbing the career ladder in recruitment. Andy, welcome. Pleasure to have you here. For the people who don't know you, could you maybe briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do at Amoria Bond at the moment?
Well, thanks for having me. It's an honour to be asked. Slightly nervous, slightly embarrassed. But yeah, what do I do at Amoria Bond? Good question. Probably a lot of people ask that. No, I'm one of the sales directors for the Amsterdam office. I lead the life science division, and I've been with Amoria Bond since the very early days.
Interesting, also that one, because that was actually wanted to go when we start, back in the career days. When and with what kind of position did you ever start at Amoria Bond?
I started as trainee back in 2006. Yeah. So right at the beginning.
Wow. All right. So you started in 2006. So that's
Yeah.
as said, you definitely saw some of the challenges and some of the positives on the market as well that came as well. Also, you reach now the rank of associate director with us. Um, how has Amoribond helped you to progress so successfully over the years?
Well, when I came in, I guess I thought I knew about sales because I'd done a little bit, and I probably even thought I knew about recruitment because I'd worked for a recruitment company in a different role. But I think very quickly I realised I knew what not to do,
Mhm.
or that was my experience was all the wrong experience potentially. So how? Well, effectively, I've gone from a graduate who thought he knew everything and knew nothing, to being like a business leader who's had that platform, of growing teams, over the last sort of decade, 12, 15 years, building 3, 4 teams of does half a dozen to a dozen people. So from a base level element, that's one way of progressing, different countries, different markets, different experiences. So, but then I guess that's from a business perspective, but then you
Mhm.
go wider and you go, well, the skill set, you go, well, you learn to be a recruiter, a business consultant, a salesperson, a negotiator, legal advice, market research, bit of HR, bit of counselor in there. So a load of different skills mixed together, and you're probably applying them day to day continuously in different combinations. But yeah, I guess the other thing is you become more self-aware, you become more analytical. You're always trying to improve, whether it's your communication, whether it's your personal relationships, whether it's business. So you become. They've helped me progress a lot as a person.
Mhm.
From a kid to a man, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting, thoughts that you just shared that with us as well. And I think for a lot of people who maybe start their career in recruitment, kind of like, far of your bed show as well as like Wolf Associate Director or Director talking with each other. But it's, I think, good to understand also for the people how did it started and, what kind of like helped you to get this far. Would you say is there anything else? Would you say those are the most important challenges for yourself that you came over, the learning points that you took in your career?
Um, it's hard to talk about yourself, I guess, in that respect when you say what else helped you get there. I guess the founders, the directors, the managers, the trainers, they played their part massively. They gave me the skills and the knowledge and the learning, right, and the support, the patience, the retraining maybe, or the
Yeah.
redirection and the compass when you get off track. I guess from your own perspective or from my perspective, I'm quite naturally motivated. If you've got you say, Andy, should we go to the gym tomorrow 6 a.m.? I might not love it at 6 a.m., but I'll say, yeah, I'll do it.
It's not a lot of people probably loving it at 6.
No, exactly. No, I heard a mountain climber the other day say he's super motivated. He's climbed all the big mountains in the world, and he said, "Look, even at 6 a.m., I'm not smiling and full of joy. I don't want to climb the mountain on that day." But yeah, I would do it. I would still get up and I'd still go to the
Yeah,
gym with you. So quite naturally motivated. So level of energy. I had some quite clear material goals. So it came at a point. My career came at a point as I graduated where I saw a few people getting houses around me, their first house. I was like, oh, I want some of that because my parents had moved away. So I was semi living on my own, semi living with family. So I was like, okay, I want my own place. Um, my car, which was a bit of a bucket, a rust bucket at that point, and old, and the first car everybody has, that was on its way out. In fact, not long after I joined Amoria Bond, it died. So I needed a car and a good car. I've always been fascinated by watches. So I had like three things very clear. And then not long after that, we decided to get married. So help pay for that honeymoon. So we had like 5 goals quite quickly that would go, okay, well, this will sustain me as well. So, excuse me, that was also another element to it.
yeah, yeah, nice ones. I think also, those are literally about you as a person, the training, the culture, the correct characteristics that, you brought in with resilience, mindset for success, goal setting, etc. Obviously, in the years that you've been with Amoria Bond, as mentioned, since 2006, how did you saw the business change in this time as well?
Change. Well, I guess in some senses, it's completely different.
Hmm.
Yeah, to see 3 or 4 guys on laptops in a room, probably as big as this one or as big as that one,
Yeah,
to go for several hundred people, 70, 80 awards, set up initiatives related to charity, diversity, inclusion, progressing lives of hundreds of people internally as well as externally, and having offices around the world. Yeah, it's that when you say it or when you ask the question, there's
yeah,
definitely a change, but it's not been radical or revolutionary. It's quite organic. It's not like
yeah,
you're spotting. Oh, it's a change. Oh, it's a change. It's we're going to put this system in place, and the benefit is this. We're now going to try this, and the benefit is this. Always for the benefit of the business. Always for the benefit of the recruiter. How can we be better? How can we be better? Still very much feels, and I'm sure you'll agree, like a startup. It doesn't. It's not some big faceless
yeah,
corporate company.
agree.
Don't get me wrong. Some of those companies are great companies, but it's agile. It's young. But yes, it's changed massively actually. But always everything the directors have said, I'm sure you'll back me up on this. Probably 95% of it, they go, we're going to do this. We're going to open this office. We want to open that market. By that date, we'll have added value to those clients. They've pretty much done it. So that's kind of cool as well. Well, very you're kind of when you're taking a moment like this, you kind of
Yeah.
go, wow, that is, how did they see that? So yeah, you feel in good hands.
Yeah, you also mentioned change, and kind of like an organic change that happened in with a moribund over the years as a kind of like a natural process that people grow with it, or kind of like went to that as well. When we maybe look at you specifically, what did you do to adapt to with those changes or kind of like the new challenges that's been out there?
Me specifically, good question. Well, I think the way I said before about they're not revolutionary changes. It's not. I don't. They didn't throw 5, 10 changes at any one time and never have.
Hmm.
It's always been organic and to the needs of a business in the main. And I think recruitment teaches you to be agile anyway, and
Yeah,
and dynamic. I think people who are coming in their first few days in the job, excuse me, well, we're sharing with them from that first one. Look, you've got to be on your toes a little bit. It's like a chess match. It's like a boxing match. If we're flat-footed, we're going to get clocked. So be ready for those surprises, just in the nature of the job. So that probably helps you adapt anyway a little bit. But I will say, no one really likes change, do they? Everyone, even when they say they do, they're a little bit. We're all a little bit set in our ways. We've all got our own characters. So I think it's always trying to look at the bigger picture and go, well, they're not going to do something. The company's never going to do something that's going to hurt us. Amoria Bond's always going to do something for the best of Amoria Bond, and that's progressing lives everywhere. It's Profess, it's all those things. We're always going to try and max out for the most. Uh, so you trust it, and you play your part in it, and yeah, I think you then go, well, look at the changes you've already made. You look at yourself and go, I've already done this. I already learned that skill, and yeah, you draw strength from that.
Yeah, like it. And as you mentioned, yeah, change also comes up with ups and downs. And I mean, in recruitment itself, it's an industry where there's ups and downs, coming every day. Um, so we need to hold on to sometimes kind of like the highs, if you want to say. What do you say is maybe your proudest moment so far in recruitment, or some of your highlights, if you wanna call it like that?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, very much a roller coaster. You get lots of little victories and lots of little setbacks. Yeah, I know the roller coaster is a cliche, but you know it all too well that you can have 3 phone calls in 1 hour that are
Yeah,
amazing, and then 3 emails come in during the same phone calls that are like kicks in the groin, let's say. So yeah, you are always on that balance. Um, but highlights, yeah, lots. As I say, going from a graduate with very little experience and a broken down car, as it were, to I at one point when the car died, I was getting the bus and the train and getting lifts um, for like 5 6 months around Manchester and to and from work and stuff. So you're a young guy, girlfriend and whatnot. You want to go out for dinner and you go, oh, should we get the bus? It's in Manchester. Obviously it depends where you live, but in Manchester, people drive everywhere, right? So it's a bit
yeah.
different. And so then
It's a little bit less sexy as well to say, "Let's go with a bus, and I'll pick you up with a car."
yeah, exactly. And it's a bit different to Amsterdam now with the bike or whatnot.
Yeah,
Um, but I remember this one Friday afternoon, somebody said, "Oh, Andy, there's a package downstairs. Can you go and get it?" And it was in the Manchester office in Didsbury there. And I went down the stairs, and there was a guy at the door, but there was no package. And it was this guy just with his car, and he had behind him a brand new Mini. And he went, "Is it Mr. Barrow?" I was like, "Yeah." And he gave me the keys, and I was like,
ah,
and then it clocked, and then I realised, I'd hit my car target, and I was like, yeah, yes. So yeah,
yeah,
that was obviously a major highlight at that moment. There's been a few like that, yourself, you've won some of the internal awards as well, so for the efforts we do, and obviously you and I are both competitive. We like our sport and stuff, so to win an award sometimes is it's a physical thing to go, yes, you've done well. So, whether it's
yeah,
Professed, Leader of the Year, those kinds of awards, they mean a lot. Um, the company trips, there's too many highlights, as you well know, on those trips around the world. I think real satisfaction is when you see someone come through, when you've trained someone and supported someone, and you see, even if it's like a little bit of a call, or
yeah,
the way they've helped a client, or they struggled with a part of the job and then they've really embraced it. They're getting that. They've made that progress. I've maybe played a part in that. Obviously, down to them to do it, but I've had some impact there. That feels amazing. And when you build that team, as you know, when we at the stage when you get into leadership and management, and then you see 5 6 8 10 people, and those people are progressing themselves now, and they've gone from being a graduate to having the first house, the car, the trip, treating the family, the skill set. I think there's people who've come in who are quite not shy, but maybe they weren't a business person,
yeah,
and now you'll overhear a conversation and you're like, whoa, that's a difficult conversation. It's a business level conversation. I wouldn't feel comfortable delivering that in that. They're at a high level of skill, so that mastery, you feel, oh, I've played a part in that. That's brilliant too. Yeah, so yeah, loads of highlights. As I said at the beginning, I'm a watchman, so that moment when you got that first real watch, you're thinking about that strap, that moment, the look of it since you were a kid, even. Yeah, but I think there's some personal material ones, but then helping others is also a really cool one.
yeah. It's really interesting to hear that from your perspective, because I think job satisfaction and what people feel as kind of like their why. Everybody got different ideas about progress, different ideas about job satisfaction, and probably if I'm going to ask this question about your proudest moments or some of the highlights, there will be some, similarity between everybody, but there will be also definitely, some different answers. So thank you for that. When we maybe give some lessons from this podcast away as well, I think there's a lot of people outside the industry who have some misconceptions maybe about working in recruitment, and maybe recruiters in general itself as well. What do you feel is maybe one of the biggest ones that you could think of?
Biggest misconceptions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, about the sector, or maybe the people who work in the sector.
I think if you type in Google, recruitment consultants are, and let it finish the sentence, you'll see some. Which is funny, but I also find it really horrifying, and I find it offensive, because I know the work that people at Amoria Bond go to and work in is,
Yeah,
our founders, our directors, the leadership, right to the trainees, the level of effort they put in. So I think the common misconception, certainly from our perspective, would be the people who are doing this job, the intentions of the doing this job. I think, there's rewards, there's highlights, there's all the stuff that goes with that, of course. But I think most, I'd say 99.9% of people, they have really good intentions. They've got pride in their badge. They want to do well, and they do it with good energy. To see people here at 7 at night, or somebody saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym Saturday morning, and then I'm going to do this project for a client." So these kind of levels of effort, they're taking ownership of their business. So I think misconceptions about ownership, about effort, about level of quality and service, when you see things like NPS scores, or client feedback, or testimonials, or things like that, clients and candidates sending people gifts, sometimes you go, okay, well, somebody must have done a good job for that.
yeah,
So yeah, I think the misconceptions are obvious, but they're definitely misconceptions.
yeah. It's kind of like it's what they assume or what they feel like it's going to be, by not being in the business itself. So makes sense.
That
Um,
could be their experience, though, of course. So
yeah,
you've got to be fair to the individual, but I can only speak for ourselves in that respect.
agree. Yeah, that makes sense. And also, as a kind of like a tip, what advice would you maybe give to people starting their career in recruitment, who maybe wants to progress quickly, or kind of like want to be successful, on the short notice?
Tips. Excuse me. We talk about this a lot when people come into the business. Actually, we always say, ask people for a lesson.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, true.
yeah, I think for me, there's probably a few. I think one of the ones I've learned, and I'm still trying to learn, to be fair, is that being open to learning, being open to
Yeah,
feedback, being open to critique, um, separating personal from just information. As I say, I'm still learning that as well. But when you reflect and step away from it, it's vital. So yeah, I think in my own experience, the moment you start to not listen to the lesson, or the bit of feedback, or whatever it is, as you're already thinking something, you're probably missing the next bit. And I think
yeah,
you're losing a real rich detail there, which could be the difference. So that would be a big one.
yeah,
Not easy, maybe obvious, but not easy. Um, I think I've said it to a few people, so some people might know this, or people who hear the podcast might know it. But one of my favorite movies is a quote in it, and the guy has a bit of a setback in it, and he's talking to someone else, and the person who speaks to us, look, the only way to get it back is to go back to the beginning, and he just repeats it. The only way to get it back is to go back to the beginning. So when we talk about advice or tips for me, if I'm struggling when I've been in sales, um, when we opened the life science division, I was asked to go back hands on, as a salesman, probably 18 months, 2 years after selling. So a bit like a boxer coming out of retirement or
yeah,
something. And in my head, I kind of, yeah, okay, that's fine. And I kind of thought it'd be straightforward. Um, and it took me 6 months to make a placement. I was rusty. I was juggling, learning the market, all the things that a trainee goes through, of course, all the things anyone in a new market goes through, but amplified by the lack of doing it as well,
yeah,
and being a brand new dad as well. Um, and probably about 3 or 4 months into that journey, that quote came about again. That the only way to get it back is to go back to the beginning. Okay, so what can I do? Okay, I need to plan time in for my key basics. plan extra time, better planning, better organization, more energy, more enthusiasm, a little bit more time on it, and then you started to see the wheels turn faster and faster. So yeah, that openness to learning, openness to feedback, and then whenever you go off track or it starts to go wrong, just simplify it. I guess the key really would be simplify it. Go back to, okay, what do we do? What's our best routes to do it?
Yeah.
Let's start that again. Rather than overcomplicate. Oh, I've got this new method. I've got this magic wand. Go, okay, well, that sounds good, but what's the simple and effective route first? That kind of thing.
Yeah, the good old back to basics,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
in that
exactly.
sense
Yeah,
as well, though.
it's not
Yeah.
revolutionary, but it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the tip is kind of like, "Ooh, it's obvious, but I need to do it," and that's sometimes here as well. Maybe just to finish off on this episode as well. Last but not least, as we always like to say, just a personal. What's your favorite thing about working at Amoria Bond?
um, the trips are great. The trips very much. We've had some great moments, throughout the moribund journey so far. The highlights we discussed before,
Yeah,
but I guess that one of some of the best things are it's quite unique as a company that, and I'd say this if I was in an interview with somebody as well, or if a client asked me. Sales companies obviously are very competitive and they have elbows and different mentalities and personalities. I don't think we've seen a lot of that in my time at Amoria Bond. I think everyone's got different cultures, different values, different agendas, but there's also a shared culture and a shared values, and they they buy into it, and yeah, I think that's quite unique, and that's where Profess comes in. That's where Progressing Lives Everywhere comes in. I think that's kind of taken on a life of its own. I think that's one of the coolest things is that there's almost this code now, isn't there? That we joke about it.
yeah,
Oh, how professed is that? Or could be more professed? That was really. It's become almost like an adjective, a way of life or something. So I think that's pretty cool, and that real thought about progressing lives. When you do take a moment and stop, you go, actually, internally, externally, relationship, it's everywhere. So yeah, those things will be some of the favourites.
nice. I like that as kind of like the Andy. I like it a lot, Andy. Thank you for your insights, and I'm pretty sure who listen to this podcast today, gain some excellent, valuable knowledge about the profession, and is probably motivated to progress in their lives with us as recruiters, or at least in their own lives as well. So much appreciated, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.